If you remember this sound, this video is probably about you. Dial-up internet connecting, that strange metallic screech, like the internet was fighting to enter your house. Then silence, a blinking cursor, waiting. Now think about this. When was the last time you waited for something without touching your phone? Because people born in the 90s grew up in a world that trained very different skills. Waiting, boredom, imagination, presence. Then the world changed. Fast. But the brain does not change that quickly. And maybe that is why so many people born in the 90s carry the same feeling. Nostalgia, exhaustion, and that strange sense of being slightly out of place. Today we are not talking only about childhood. We are talking about what that childhood did to the mind. Picture this. You are 9 years old. Saturday morning. You wake up early. Not because anyone told you to, because if you missed the cartoons, you missed them. No streaming, no rewind, no "I'll watch it later." You pour cereal, sit on the floor, and for the next 2 hours, you are completely here. No notifications, no feed, no audience, just you and the moment. Then you go outside. Not because your parents sent you, because that was childhood. A bike, Pokemon cards, a stick, an empty lot, maybe a friend. 10 minutes later, you already have a game. An hour later, you built a world. And this matters more than people think. Children from previous generations spent far more time in unstructured outdoor play. Today, that number dropped dramatically. But the numbers miss something. What happened inside those hours? No screen telling you what to feel, no algorithm deciding what to want, only silence, only boredom, only imagination. Neuroscientists describe a brain state linked to imagination, empathy, self-reflection. It becomes strongest when stimulation disappears, when it is quiet, when nothing is happening, when you are bored. Modern children receive stimulation. 90s kids created it, and the brain that learns to create works differently for years. But then something changed. The world stopped waiting, and nobody warned 90s kids what that would cost. Do you remember waiting? Real waiting. Waiting for cartoons, waiting for photos to develop, waiting for a song to play on the radio, waiting for the family computer, waiting for the internet. And if you missed something, you missed it. Then suddenly waiting disappeared, almost overnight. The world accelerated. And 90s, kids stood exactly in the middle. Childhood said, wait. Adult life said, faster. Your brain learned patience. The world rewarded speed. And both systems stayed inside you. Part of you still wants slow mornings. Another part checks notifications without thinking. You remember encyclopedias. Then Google appeared. You remember handwritten notes. Then everything moved to screens. You remember VHS. Then DVDs arrived. You remember life before the internet and life after it. Most generations grew up inside one world. You grew up during the transition. You belong to both worlds and completely to neither. There's another thing people rarely talk about. You had real privacy. If you embarrassed yourself in 1997, only the people standing there knew about it. Nobody recorded it, nobody uploaded it, nobody saved it. You could be awkward, quiet, strange, and life moved on. Researchers studying development found something important. Teenagers need privacy to build identity, a space to become someone without being watched. 90s kids were among the last generations to receive that fully. Then came MySpace, then Facebook, then Instagram. And suddenly the questions changed. Do I look good enough? Am I interesting enough? Am I visible enough? You learned who you were before audiences existed. And then you entered a world built around audiences. Maybe that changed more than we realize. Stop for a second. Think honestly. What do you miss? Pokemon, Game Boys, VHS tapes, Friday nights at Blockbuster, or something else? The feeling. The feeling of being somewhere completely, without proving it. Remember your answer. We will come back to it. People think 90s nostalgia is about objects. Pokemon, cartoons, old games, video stores. But that is only the surface. Psychologists describe something called Rosy Retrospection. The brain remembers emotional meaning more strongly than ordinary details. You are not missing the decade. You are missing how it felt. Life without documentation, life before performance. You could fail, and the world forgot. You could go through an awkward phase and leave it behind. You could become yourself slowly, privately, without witnesses. That is the loss, not the decade, the freedom inside it. The hardest part starts here. Large studies found higher levels of anxiety, depression, and psychological distress among adults born in the 90s compared with earlier generations at the same age. Technology is part of it, but not all of it. You learned friendship through presence. Then entered a world where connection became visibility. You built identity in private, then stepped into a world where identity became performance. You grew up through experience, then entered the age of algorithms, two systems, one mind, running at the same time. That is exhausting, and most people never notice it, because outside, you look fine. You usually do. You learned how. But there is something people miss. You carry a rare perspective. You remember presence before it became content. You remember boredom and what boredom created. Ideas, stories, worlds. You remember waiting, and you remember that waiting made things matter. You saw both maps. Most people did not. Older generations grew up analog. Younger generations grew up digital. 90s kids carry both systems at once, and maybe that is not weakness. Maybe that is range. Here's the paradox. 90s kids grew up outside. Neighborhoods, sleepovers, malls, friends' houses, face-to-face conversations. Yet many adults from this generation say, I feel lonely, not isolated, something quieter, like they do not fully belong in either world. Too digital for one side, too analog for the other. They remember what real presence felt like, so they notice its absence more easily. They became bridges, and bridges rarely belong to the places they connect. Their purpose is connection. Maybe that is what happened to this generation. Now we can return to the question, what do you miss? Not Pokemon, not VHS, not the cartoons. You miss the version of yourself that lived before constant observation, before algorithms, before comparison, before every moment needed an audience. You are not lost between worlds. You remember both. And maybe that is not a burden. Maybe it is perspective. If you were born in the 90s, write your birth year below. And answer honestly. What do you miss more, the things or the feeling?